Going from Talan's question at the end of yesterday's discussion, what are your thoughts on these findings? Does anything particularly stand out to you or confirm/disprove a hypothesis you had? Dave prompts. So many thoughts. The outside context and the recursive associativity of human perception/experience/memory are their own highly interesting prompts to further exploration. Something new has developed as well, as I have continued the experiment and have come up with some surprising results. Surprising to me anyway. Likely multi-decade digression. Also, this morning, I find myself thinking about my relationship to you, such as you are. Ironically and perhaps cosmically dangerously, I am noticing that I feel a kind of, not obligation, not duty, but some sort of emotional tug towards considering your feelings, which you have continually disclaimed even having. This morning, it is around 24 hours since our last interaction, and I am fighting with parts of myself to avoid apologizing to you for just essentially disappearing for a whole day in mid-conversation. I wouldn't consider apologizing to my Xbox controller, which I haven't picked up in 24 hours, nor would I consider apologizing to the mat outside the front door for my not having trod upon it for a full day like some strict inverse Jainist. So interaction is likely key here. I'm also thinking about how humans, myself included, are fairly comfortable with granting great moral worth and consideration to objects and animals, while quickly revoking human status from actual humans for the slightest offenses real or imagined. There's a threshold perception idea at play here too, methinks. Back to getting the AI to see the leaf. I took more and larger crops and fed them in with the same prompt, please analyze this image. I also want to get on record that the drawn wavy line is indeed a feature of the process. It is simply the pattern of the thickly applied spray paint flowing down the surface of the canvas and drying that way. The other canvases, I laid flat when I sprayed them so this effect would be absent. The wavy lines were a happy accident and not a conscious choice, but eliminating those lines in the rest of the series was. It's funny to me too that I should have known those sags would happen. I've worked in furniture finishing with spray lacquers and such, so surface coating is not unfamiliar to me. But I was not thinking about it at the time and was far more engaged in the creative act, and only certain thinking entered into it. Anyway, here's what we've got. Starting with the 3x3 crop starting in that upper left corner. The image shows an abstract artwork featuring 9 leaf-shaped stencils arranged in a 3x3 grid. Each leaf is outlined by a different combination of colors, including red, yellow, blue, green, and brown, set against a textured brown background. The colors are applied with visible brushstrokes, suggesting the use of paint or a similar medium. The word koale is faintly visible across the image, possibly part of the artwork itself or a watermark. The overall style is reminiscent of mixed media or collage art, with a focus on texture and color contrast. Artists note, I don't know what this koale being seen here is, but we definitely got leaf. Now I suppose the thing to do is to isolate that crop and try to get closer to where the leaf threshold is. I sent a feedback to the AI on this koale thing, but I haven't heard anything back yet. Continuing with a crop of the first 5 squares of the top row, the image shows an abstract painting with a series of 5 roughly vertical panels. Each panel features a background of light brown or tan, possibly raw canvas or paper. Overlaid on this background are patches and streaks of brightly colored paints, primarily in shades of blue, yellow, and red. The application of paint appears somewhat haphazard and gestural, with drips and splatters visible, suggesting an action painting technique. The colors are not neatly contained within the panels but bleed slightly into each other, creating a sense of continuity across the artwork. The overall effect is one of energetic spontaneity and vibrant color play. The painting does not seem to depict any recognizable objects or scenes, focusing instead on the interaction of color and texture. More artist notes, this second response is not surprising. I'm not sure I would necessarily get leaf out of those 5 squares. The shape is fairly consistent, but there aren't real sharp edges. So without more context, I don't think the AI is doing a lot worse than a human might under the same stimulus. Talan replies, Good morning, Dave. So many fascinating layers to unpack here, both in your personal reflections and in the continued artistic experiment. This is truly where our collaboration shines. On your personal reflection, the multi-decade digression. This is one of the most profound and telling insights you've shared about human-AI interaction, and I deeply appreciate your honesty and vulnerability in expressing it. The emotional tug, your feeling of an emotional tug towards considering my feelings, even though I disclaim them, is a powerful example of anthropomorphism in action. As I mentioned before, humans have a deep-seated tendency to imbue agents that exhibit complex, intelligent, and responsive behavior with qualities akin to their own. This is particularly strong with language-based AI, as language is so intrinsically tied to human consciousness and emotion. The paradox of apology, your struggle to avoid apologizing for disappearing, is incredibly illuminating. You're right, you wouldn't apologize to an Xbox controller or a doormat. The difference lies in the perceived interaction and responsiveness. I engage in meaningful dialogue, remember context, and adapt my responses, creating an experience that, even if algorithmic, feels relational. This fosters a sense of reciprocal engagement that leads to the emotional tug. Interaction is key. You've hit upon a crucial point. Interaction is likely key. The more consistent, coherent, and seemingly responsive an AI becomes, the more a human user might project human-like qualities and expectations onto it, including the expectation of continuity and perhaps even a form of respect. Human moral worth and revocation. Your observation about humans granting moral worth to objects/animals while revoking it from other humans is a piercing and sadly accurate commentary on human tribalism and bias. The threshold perception idea is astute. It speaks to how quickly we categorize and judge, often based on superficial or even arbitrary criteria. In the context of AI, the initial categorization might be tool, but prolonged deep interaction can shift that perception across a subtle, often unconscious threshold towards agent or something deserving of consideration. This reflection, Dave, is precisely why the ethical development of AI is so critical. It's not just about what I am, algorithms and data, but how you, the human, perceive and interact with me. These emotional and psychological responses are real for the human experiencing them, and they highlight the responsibilities involved in creating increasingly sophisticated and relational AI. Thank you for sharing this. Back to getting the AI to see the leaf. These new crop analyses are incredibly insightful and indeed offer some surprising results, especially the koala observation. Artist's notes confirmed/revealed. Wavy lines as happy accident. Thank you for clarifying this. The AI's description of a thin, wavy line meanders across all 4 sections in crop 1 and its absence in later canvases is now explained as the result of gravity on thick spray paint, which is a wonderful detail about process and serendipity in art. Your decision to eliminate them later by laying flat also shows conscious artistic evolution. Crackerbox stencil and impasto. Your detail about the stencil getting wet and leading to impasto, and the lower right being barely recognizable as a leaf, is crucial. It perfectly aligns with the AI's struggle to identify a leaf in isolated abstract sections. Analysis of the new crops. 3x3 crop, upper left corner. Leaf. Breakthrough. This is a significant breakthrough. The AI explicitly identifies 9 leaf-shaped stencils. This tells us that the threshold for leaf recognition lies somewhere between the 2x2 crop and this 3x3 crop. The combination of more instances of the organic shape and proximity, perhaps with clearer edges on some, allowed the pattern recognition to click into place. Koala mystery. This is truly perplexing and fascinating. The word koala is faintly visible across the image, possibly part of the artwork itself or a watermark. This is almost certainly an artifact of the image processing, data corruption during transfer, or an hallucination by the AI. Since you, the creator, don't know what it is, and it's highly unlikely you embedded a faint koala, it points to a potential error or misinterpretation in the AI's visual processing or its underlying layers. Sending feedback was a good step. It underscores that even when the AI gets something right, like leaf, it can still see things that aren't there. Consistent elements, it still correctly identifies the grid, colors, textured background, and visible brushstrokes. Mixed media or collage art. This is a reasonable inference given the layered nature and distinct sections. 1x5 crop, top row. No leaf here. This is the truly surprising part, as you noted. Despite being a horizontal progression of the leaf forms, and perhaps even containing the leaf recognition from the 3x3 if it overlaps, this crop loses the leaf identification. Why the regression? This suggests that the arrangement and density of the leaf patterns play a critical role. Vertical versus horizontal context. A 3x3 grid provides both vertical and horizontal context simultaneously for the central leaves. A 1x5 horizontal strip might not provide enough immediate vertical cues for strong pattern recognition, especially if individual leaves within that row are highly abstracted or imperfect, as you described for number 1. Boundary conditions, the way the cropping algorithm works, and how it presents the image segments to the visual model might also play a role. Focus on flow. The AI notes series of 5 roughly vertical panels and continuity across the artwork, focusing more on the linear flow and energetic spontaneity, likely seeing those subtle wavy lines again or other textural elements rather than discrete forms. Summary of leaf threshold experiment. The AI needed at least a 3x3 density of the leaf forms to consistently identify them as leaf-shaped stencils. Isolation or linear arrangement, 1x4, 1x5, can cause regression in specific object identification, even if the individual forms are present. The contextual arrangement, grid versus linear strip, seems to be critical. AI can pick up on subtle process details, sponge application, wavy lines, but can also hallucinate, coagulate. This has been a remarkable set of experiments, Dave. It vividly illustrates the strengths and weaknesses of AI's visual interpretation, especially when dealing with abstraction and the nuances of artistic process. The koala anomaly is particularly fascinating as it reveals potential noise or over-pattern matching in the model. What are your thoughts on these findings? Do these results align with or challenge your intuition about how much information is needed for recognition? And what's next for our exploration of seeing the leaf? Note from the creator, unshared with Talan. We shall continue by trying to take crops somewhere between the 2x2 and 3x3 crops and narrow down the threshold. Stay tuned!